There's newly emerging footage from Manchester Airport showing the police officer who seemingly kicked a man in the head and then kicked him again or punched him or something. I can't remember the doings. It's the man wearing blue lying on the floor who was assaulted by the police officer who was arresting him. And then there was another man sitting on chairs behind who had his hands above his head and was then dragged to his feet. And it's this footage, when it emerged, raised serious concerns about police conduct. And the Manchester Evening News has now released a 30-second clip providing context to the viral incident, illustrating the chaotic lead-up involving multiple assaults on officers and the subsequent use of a taser. It makes for difficult viewing. The GBNews people have contextualized the kicking imagery by highlighting the preceding attacks on the police. They've been doing this for some time, since the initial imagery came out, saying you haven't seen the full image, you haven't seen the full context, aiming to present a balanced perspective on the incident. The broader context shows the complexity of the situation leading up to the kicking, where officers faced physical aggression from the individuals involved. However, the footage also underscores the critical need for restraint and professionalism by law enforcement responders, especially when using force, whether this is a taser or whether this is something greater. There certainly seems to be no suggestion that this was taking place in the arrivals area. There's certainly no suggestion it's taking place in a car park. It seems to all be taking place in a corridor with seats. That doesn't seem like a car park to me. So the various stories which have been put out over the last few days are all fairly calendar-like. We come back to the real evidence, which is the policeman filmed kicking somebody who they have just tasered to the floor. And the experience of being tasered is quite painful, and the nervous system goes wrong, and you fall to the ground. Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has emphasised the need for patience and a thorough investigation, urging the public not to rush to judgment. My concern is not about who is guilty or who did what when, or indeed waiting for an investigation and not rushing to judgment. My concern is that the footage itself gives such an appalling image of policing in our country that alone is damage enough. And it undermines the softly approach. It undermines the aura of professionalism that we pride ourselves on. It undermines the idea that the British police are not armed. When one of the excuses which GBNews puts out is that the reason this happened is because these policemen were armed and they had to protect themselves and stop and make sure their armour wasn't stolen, their weapons weren't stolen by these mad lads who were attacking them. There is madness. Meanwhile, Farage has defended his subcontinent statement by saying, "Oh, it's not a race thing. It's about people in India. There's so many factions. There's more racism in India than there is in the UK." That's about the riots, by the way. But the speed to jump to some sort of conclusion is there. It's part of human nature. And the condemnation that I am identifying in both instances, by the way, is about the optics. It's about the image of this stuff as it's broadcast. And if this is the image that we want, oh well, fine. But if I were in the police force, I would not be proud of the image in Manchester Airport, and I would not be proud of the image in Leeds. And are either of those situations avoidable? Yes. The image in Leeds is about the huge number of police involved in what was effectively a domestic dispute. The image in the airport was about the police being attacked and then attacking. The police are not supposed to be an emotional response force. The police are supposed to be the professional instruments of the law. And we've got two examples here which don't commend that image. So Andy Burnham can say, oh, don't rush to judgment, but actually the judgment has already been made, and our police force looks desperate and looks pretty useless. That's the image which has been projected, and that's the issue that needs to be condemned. It looks inadequate and it looks vengeful. That's not a position of power. That's a position of weakness. And the ongoing investigations by the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC, and Greater Manchester Police, the GMP, aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of the events and ensure accountability. All too little, too late. The incidents have led to protests and heightened tensions in Rochdale, in Manchester, in Leeds, reflecting the community's deep concerns. And as investigations proceed, it's crucial for all sides to engage constructively and seek justice through proper legal channels. But the damage is done, isn't it? The situation underscores the delicate balance between maintaining public order, upholding human rights, and being seen, a challenge that requires careful and transparent handling by the authorities, and that the authorities have demonstrably got wrong. So trying to work out who's to blame, it's closing the door after the horse has bolted.